Okay, gotcha.
Right? But then you give actually what? Steroids to them, because what are you trying to do? You try to have that steroid affect these cells from doing what?
Mitosis.
That's what steroids do. It stops cells from doing mitosis.
Gotcha.
And now they have more what? Stable skin. Now they don't have as many scales and stuff like that. But that's just to give you an example of how keratinization is very important. That's what makes your healthy skin that you have now. All right, that process of these cells of stratum basal layer creating all of these small superficial layers. All right, you have also the layer above the stratum basal layer, that's stratum spinosum. Okay? That's because when they're prepared on a slide, these cells, they look like a spine shape. You have the stratum granulosum layer, a very significant layer where half of the cells do apoptosis. They pretty much know they're dead. All this brick that's filling up in them, called keratin,
right.
They know they're going to die. So they just program themselves to die. That's what apoptosis is. And then they continue to die, but at this point, when they're at this layer called stratum lucidum, the membranes are incredibly thick, adding a layer of thickness to this type of skin. All right, so sometimes stratum lucidum is not going to be a part of these sublayers. He's only in when you have what you call what kind of skin? Thick skin.
Thick skin.
You
yeah,
see
I
what I'm
remember
saying?
the thin and thick.
So yeah, he's not going to be there.
Yeah.
He's not going to be there when you have thin skin.
Because that whole section is missing in thin skin. The loose,
There you go.
the L.
So therefore, if you have thin skin, which is pretty much most of your skin,
right.
where you have thick skin,
Palms, feet.
tips, fingers,
Right.
palms, soles, and feet. So when you everywhere else, you go straight from stratum granulosum to what? Stratum corneum.
Right.
All right. So, but yes, that thick membranes add a layer of thickness, and that's why
That's
you
what
have
gives us our clearness.
Yeah, but transparent as well. Very nice. Add that feature that it's also what? Transparent.
Oh, it is? Okay.
Yeah. Those cells transparent. Very interesting. But stratum corneum, most superficial layer regardless. And this layer here, that's the one that has most of the actual cells, most layers. It could be about 35 or more layers of actual what? Stratified squamous epithelium. Very flattened cells, but are they living? No, all are what? Dead. 100% dead. And so now we have what we considered my what? At this point, we have our actual deck. We are protected now from heat, right? We're protected from any dangerous chemicals trying to get in your body, and they're gonna let things through. Okay. But that's our situation when we're looking at what we call epidermis. Okay, I want to add some cells to our epidermis, and those cells are going to be in the stratum basal layer, and one specifically, and I put them in this dark color because he's mixed in with what we call these keratinocytes, and what he's called a melanocytes. So melanocytes actually are weird shape-looking cells. They have these octopus extensions. So what they do is they hover around other keratinocytes with those extensions. But the main thing to focus on is that they create this pigment called what? Melanin.
Melanin. Right.
So melanocytes create melanin, okay? They create melanin because they have this enzyme, okay, that creates it. It's called tyrosinase. It makes melanin. Melanin is a pigment, right? And so that's what gives you that color.
Right.
Okay, that's what gives you the color. Those who don't have much color on their skin, that means they don't produce as much melanin. Not that they don't have melanocytes. It's just that their melanocytes are not producing enough what?
Melanin.
Okay? If some people actually don't have that actual gene to make that enzyme called tyrosinase, that means they will be tyrosinase negative. And that's what we call a person who's
albino.
There you go.
Right.
So that just shows you melanin basically is what's giving you that color. Because albinos don't have the color, you know?
Right.
And that's also applied to certain things that also have color, like structures like hair.
Gotcha.
So what we'll find out later, hair basically is epidermis. Hair is epidermis, and that means it has melanocytes as well. Melanin is created. If you have a lot, you get dark hair. You don't have that much, you have like blonde or red hair.
Right.
You see what I'm saying?
I got you.
Okay, sometimes, well, even me, my hair was dark, but when I'm older, I don't produce as much melanin. So now my hair turns what? Gray.
Right.
You see what I'm saying? So all that's related to melanin, right?
Gotcha.
Your eyes, your iris, it has actually a pigment in it, right? If it has a lot of melanin, it's what? Brown.
Right.
Right? Like you and me. But if it's not as much melanin, it's what?
Blue,
green.
Blue or something.
It's green. It's green. So because blue would be the least amount. But that explains why green, some people who are what? African American have green.
Right.
You see what I mean?
Right.
So it's not that they don't have a lot of melanin. See,
Right,
so that's what correlates to eye color. You know?
Gotcha.
Very good. But you're right. Blue would be the least amount of melanin.
So that's why black people never have blue eyes.
Never. But you'll see some with what?
Green.
Green. You see what I'm
Not
saying?
with blue at all.
You may not catch a blue in there. Yeah.
The melanin.
You can never say never.
Right.
But
right.
you never really come across. You've come across green though.
Right. Green. Yeah.
Some light skinned complected African American.
Right.
So yes, that's a very important cell in there. Okay, he's making the melanin. All that melanin's going to actually do what? Go in keratinocytes. And what is he doing? It's great. It's a beautiful situation where this pigment now surrounds the nucleus of all the keratinocytes. The melanocytes themselves, of course, because they make the melanin. But all these other keratinocytes are going to have melanin wrapped around their nucleus. Why is that important? Because light rays are very dangerous.
Yeah.
Okay, it's actually called non-ionizing radiation. And that radiation goes straight to DNA in the nucleus and messes it up. And when you mess up DNA, the high chance of you getting cancer is really high.
Okay.
So you have this beautiful melanin surrounding all the nuclei in these cells, all right, and protecting those cells from getting what? Cancer. Because what do? They take that ultraviolet light and absorb it themselves.
Right.
They take that light themselves. That's what color does. It absorbs light.
Okay.
So what this melanin does is absorb all that light, and now the nucleus gets none of it. You see that? Right. It's totally protected. Adding another feature to skin, because and that's the thing, as you go through these different structures in skin, you said that they have a function, that means they give skin that function. You see what I'm saying? So a function of skin definitely would be, just by looking at what we call keratinocytes and melanocytes, we see that keratinocytes protect you, skin. It gives that function of skin to protect you from heat, right? Dangerous chemicals. You see that deck that you have there?
Yeah.
Not letting things in, right? And melanocytes, with their melanin, they also add that protection to your body as it relates to what? UV light. See what I'm saying? So now you're protected from what? Heat, dangerous chemicals, and UV light. Yes. Okay, so this is a function of skin to protect you from those things. Just by looking at the structures, the things that are in the skin. You see what I mean? You also have these guys called Merkel cells in there. At that stratum basal layer, right? Specialized epithelial cells that actually are basically a part of a neuron. The part that it reaches out and finds out what's going on in the environment. So he's going to be a part of sensation as well. So you should have already gone through the dermis, and you've seen that there were also nerves there as well, right? Nerves like what you call Meissner corpuscles, free nerve endings. Free nerve endings take care of the pain, right? Your actual Meissner corpuscles take care of things like touch, pressure, vibration. Gotcha. All right, so those take care of all of those types of senses, if you will. And so therefore gives what? Skin that function of what? Sensation. Right? In your dermis, it's the free nerve endings in your what? Your Meissner corpuscles and Pacinian corpuscles. But it's also in your epidermis, your Merkel cells add to that function of what? Sensation. Okay? Picking up things like sensations like touch. Right. So those are your actual cells in there. I like to end with this guy in the stratum spinosum layer, which are called Langerhans cells. And he's what you call a macrophage. So he's a descendant of what? White blood cells. So what do white blood cells do? They go up to an enemy, which happens to be some invader, which is either a bacteria or any other kind of microbe that might cause harm to you, and they eat it. Okay, so if there's a certain invader that does get past our keratinocytes, right? Maybe you had an abrasion and you actually took those cells off or something. Now you've exposed yourself. But hey, who do you still have there? Macrophages. What are they called? Langerhans cells. Right there in your epidermis, waiting to see if something comes.
Like a cut? Or...
Yeah, a cut can expose you to that, right? Because usually you shouldn't have a germ come through here, right? Okay. Because keratinocytes are like bricks, right? Yeah, they ain't. And so that keratin is so strong. It's like something trying to get through a deck. Yeah. Right? It's not gonna work. But if you compromise that deck, you cut yourself. If you get an abrasion, now you still have somebody in place like Langerhans cells gonna take care of those guys. Okay? Macrophages. And what do? They eat whatever they see. Now they get rid of that germ. Okay. Right. So then you also have protection as it relates to what? germs. This is the skin, ability to protect you from germs. Okay.
Right.
I'm adding functions based on what we see in the skin.
Right.
Whatever is a part of skin, it gives skin that function. Yes, sir.
What does it say? 9 mitosis.
Say again?
9 mitosis.
No, not that's an arrow pointing up.
Oh, okay.
Indicating
Right.
an increase.
Okay.
It's an increase in mitosis.
All right. Gotcha.
That's just an arrow pointing up, indicating an increase
Okay.
in mitosis. And that's at what? Those cells that do that, the keratinocytes at the stratum basal layer. Okay. So yes, okay, that's our epidermis. Okay, and we can't forget that once keratinization happens in 30 days, these cells that are dead eventually do slough off.